I'm Jason Little, and this is 10 minutes off the top of my head. We're still on this great journey heading towards a great blessing. A great blessing is coming, but before we get there, we have to establish some ground rules. We have to get some things understood, and we have to agree upon these things before we can move ahead to what that great blessing is. So I want to go over those ground rules, and they are: number one, Satan is a liar and the father of lies. Number two, we all suffer from cognitive dissonance. Number three, they are the Illuminati. The Illuminati is not a noun, it is an adjective. It describes those who are illuminated. They are of their father, the devil. Got that? That's four. Number five, the science is never settled. The science is never settled. We're talking about science, and we're talking about alchemy, and we've kind of looked at how alchemy became science. And I don't know if you agree with me on that or not. It doesn't really matter. If you don't, please make some comments. Let me know why and back it up with some facts and some figures and some ideas. But I'm going to read you a couple of quotes, and this is going to be number 6, okay? Number 6, this is a quote, a direct quote from one of the great scientists, actual scientists of the world, Nikola Tesla. And he said this: "Today's scientists have substituted mathematics for experiments, and they wander off through equation after equation and eventually build a structure which has no relation to reality." Nikola Tesla. Now, that is a very interesting statement, especially when you couple it with a statement that was made by Nicholas Copernicus, who said it is not necessary that hypotheses should be true or even probable. What? It is not necessary that hypotheses should be true or even probable. It is sufficient that they lead to results of calculation which agree with calculations. That's what we call circular reasoning. They need to lead to calculations that agree with calculations. What does that even mean? Well, here is maybe going to shed a little bit of light on this. Another quote from Professor Maclaurin. He's a Master of Arts he's a chair, or was the chair of mathematics in the University of Edinburgh. He said this: "Neither let anyone, so far as hypotheses are concerned, expect anything certain from astronomy." What? Neither let anyone, so far as hypotheses are concerned, expect anything certain from astronomy, since that science can afford nothing of the kind, lest in case he should adopt for truth things feigned for another purpose, he should leave this study more foolish than he came. What is going on? Why are these scientists saying things like this? Well, in the case of Nikola Tesla, we know why he said this. He was a contemporary of Albert Einstein, and he was speaking about the theory of relativity when he made this statement. And let me read it to you again. "Today's scientists have substituted mathematics for experiments and wander off through equation after equation and eventually build a structure which has no relation to reality." Einstein himself was asked, how does it feel to be the smartest man that ever lived? He said, "I don't know. Ask Nikola Tesla." Now, when we think about these things and we think about these statements, we have to begin to wonder, what is science really? Science is experimentation. You can't really have experimentation without science. But today's scientists have substituted mathematics for experimentation. And we see that all over the place. Science is bought and paid for. If you're a corporation or a government, you already buy and pay for the outcome that you expect. You want science to tell you a specific thing, and so science endeavors to tell you that specific thing that you want them to tell you because you paid that scientist to give you that outcome. And that's what science has become. Now, science is real. Science is useful. Science is needed. Without science, we would not have all the discoveries that we do have. And I'm not trying to poo-poo all of science. What I'm saying is that science is not a god. Science is not the be-all and end-all of knowledge. The science is never settled. Many said that the science was settled. That is a lie. That's a complete lie. And who's the father of lies? And who are they? And who is their father? Listen, folks, all this stuff goes together. And we begin to get an idea of what's really going on out there at CERN. Is it really science, or is it alchemy, or is it some kind of amalgamation of the two? And I would say to you, my theory is that it's an amalgamation of the two. Now, theory is a very interesting word because nowadays it means fact. When we talk about the theory of evolution, it is now taught as a fact. The science is settled. Such has been stated by men as Bill Nye, the science guy, who is not a scientist at all. This has been stated by men like Neil deGrasse Tyson, who I call into question your degree, sir. I call into question your title as an astrophysicist. You, sir, are an actor, and that's all you are. You're the mouthpiece of they, and that, sir, is a fact. Now, when we look at the theory of evolution, the fact, the settled science of evolution, we begin to notice that the scientists employ this very circular reasoning that we see out of Copernicus. These scientists say that the fossil record shows a progression of species that culminate in the species that we now are able to observe today, including human beings. Now, I disagree with the theory of evolution. The beginning of wisdom is the fear of Jehovah God, the fear of the Lord. The beginning of wisdom is the fear of the Lord. And so we must look to see what the Lord said, what God, what Jehovah said about how the world began. And he doesn't say that it happened billions of years ago and by a very slow process of mutation that brings about a positive change. Do you know that science has never observed a positive change through mutation? It doesn't happen. Mutation is almost always exclusively destructive, and it destroys rather than creates anything useful to any species. But yet we're told that through the process of mutation and the survival of the fittest, that the species that we're able to observe today have been created and are sustained on this earth. I think that that is a bunch of nonsense. The theory of evolution is a theory, and I accept it as a theory, but by the definition of theory that I was given when I was a young man or a young child. And that is this: a theory is the conclusion of several hypotheses that come together to form a theory which is yet unproven, period. Okay? It's not proven. We can't prove these theories. That's why they're still theories. Once these theories are proven, they become laws. And I call into question many laws of science as well. But that's a whole other discussion in this topic. But I don't want to get into that right this minute. But what I want to do is to impress upon you that evolution is an unproven theory, and that theory itself is unproven. So, when we look at evolution, what do we see? We see the fossil record. And how do they determine how old those fossils are? Well, this is very interesting. The age of fossils is determined by the strata in which it's found. So the higher the strata, the younger the fossil. The lower the strata, the older the fossil. Now, how are the layers of rock, the strata, how are they aged? How is their age determined? Well, very simply, the age of the strata is determined by the fossils that are found therein. Let me read that quote to you again from Copernicus, which says, it is not necessary that hypotheses should be true or even probable. It is sufficient that they lead to results of calculation which agree with calculations. Circular reasoning. The fossils are this old because the strata that they were found in is this old. The strata is this old because of the fossils that were found in that strata. That, my friends, is nonsense. That is not science. That is speculation at best. And it's not even good speculation, in my opinion. But how can we possibly accept the most basic of scientific axioms if their axioms are flawed? How can we accept it? How can we accept circular reasoning as science? On the next video, I want to examine what the Bible says about creation, and I want to challenge you if you really believe what the Bible says, because too many Christians out there are wishy-washy and namby-pamby about what the Bible says about creations, and they try to marry creation and science together, and it doesn't work. They're certainly divorced from one another, and one of them is correct and one of them is a lie. I'll bet you can't guess which one I think is correct and which one I think is a lie. I'll bet you can. God bless you. See you on the next video.